Cheers. Now. Hello and welcome to the fourth episode of Forging Ahead. I'm Aviv Manoach and this is a show about tabletop role-playing games where I talk or discuss the shenanigans of my home group and prepare their next adventure. You can join me live each week on twitch.tv/isol.me, one word, or subscribe to the podcast audio on dwarfcast.net. Okay, so each week what we do is discuss or talk about what was going on in my sessions with the team, and then I'm going over what I want to do next, and that's basically the show. If you haven't listened to the previous episode, they are all on dwarfcast.net. You can catch up to the point we are on at the moment. This episode is after 2 weeks we had sessions. I didn't have an episode last week because I was out of the house. So we have quite a lot of going over in regards to what's previously been going on in the game. I'm not going to actually say everything I wrote here. You can go and read the show notes. It's there. You can also go to our Obsidian portal. It's collectingdust.obsidianportal.com. And in the adventure log, I keep track of the session summaries. For every time I write an episode, I also upload a session summary adventure log to the Obsidian portal. So if you remember, last time we stopped in the Titania Club on Friday. Amorphel was fighting Harpy and kinda had a hard time about it. And in the next to last session, he got a phone call from Alex. He pulled a Spider-Man, stopped the battle, jumped over to the cage, on the cage, and took the phone call. And Alex, she's his friend, and she told him her house was basically under attack. So he stops everything, forfeited the fight. Oberon, which is the guy that managed the fight, told him, if you leave now, don't ever return. Amorphel was out. Meanwhile, Oron is a telepath. He rides in the mind of a guy called Franken, and he is he's spying on another woman called Hexen. They met Hexen before in this club, and she was trying to find something called the Tablet of a Nut. And she comes over to talk to Franken, and she tells him, I know your boss can do things for money. So she hands him over a photograph and ask him to get it over to his boss, which the team doesn't know who the boss is. We, the listener, and me, the GM, know that Franken works for Darkness, a very powerful wonder that organizes a faction of wonders in the city that basically do dirty jobs for money. Franken tells Hexen he thought her boss was not very keen on working with others, and we don't know anything about Hexen boss at that time. And so Oron searches, since he's riding inside the mind of Franken, searches what he knows about Hexen's boss, and all he sees is a vision of a jackal and an ankh. The ankh, we know, is the symbol of the group Hexen works for, since it was on her jacket the last time they saw her. And then what Oron does is jumps into the mind of Hexen. For some reason, he doesn't know why. She feels him in there and starts talking to him and warns him about the owner of the club, the Titanic Club, which is owned by Rave. Although she doesn't mention her by name. Oron wants to dig deeper. But Hexen kicks him out, so he's not giving up. He unleashes his powers and gets a very high roll and get to stay in there and forcefully intimidate her into revealing information. So he discovers that she was taken care of by the Jackal from a very young age, and he is trying to collect all the pieces, all the fragments of the tablet of Anat, in order to assemble them and restore the tablet, which will give him power. So this is the first time the team learns about the Jackal and also learns what they want the tablet of Anat for. At the back corridor of the Titania, Flying Fist and Seabreeze are confronted with two other wonders. One is the guy that can has the power of sort of like a chameleon. He can blend in the background, and the other one is a girl they don't see. So Amraphel comes to exit the club from the back exit, and the exit is blocked. And he hears them. He hears them talking from the other side, and suddenly the wall becomes a girl called Becky or Rebecca, with shape-shifting abilities, and there's a bit of an altercation, but it doesn't devolve into a fight at the moment. Amraphel asks his friends to go with him to Alex's house, and Becky and the other guy, which we now know is called Mirage, or Adam is the real name, leave them alone, go into the club. So now everyone gets into Seabreeze's flying ship, which has a chameleon circuit, which means it can disguise itself as mundane objects. So it's made to look like a car, and they drive off to Alex's house. Water break. They get to Alex's house. They see that the whole street is perfectly fine except for her house. It was like a surgical strike against them. They get in, they talk with Alex. She tells them she haven't been able to see the person that did it, but he threw their car around and broke the windows and broke the doors and basically messed up their house, at least externally. He didn't do very much to the interior. Then we hear the sirens. Sorry, the cops are coming, so the team is hiding outside the house behind the wall because they want to see what happened. The police gets there, they block the area, start investigating. The detectives come, Alex's parents return home, etc. Then Amraphel, which has a very keen hearing, hears one of the cops talking into his radio and tells someone that the asset has done the job. So the team gets suspicious. Amraphel tells this to Oron. Oron jumps into the guy's mind and interrogates him. A very nice scene it was. And he learns that the cop doesn't know who he's reporting to, and he doesn't know who the asset is beside their alias, their codename Typhoon. And that he was meant to scare the family. Now, if you recall, we talked about it last time, that Typhoon is employed by Rave to intimidate the Mikhailov family in order for her to get her hand on a fragment of the tablet of Anat. where was I? Oron goes on the internet. We have a site in our campaign setting called the Wonder Wiki, which people upload information about all the wonders in the world. So we search for typhoon. It does find an entry, but not very much information. All it has is the name Typhoon, his powers, which are wind control, and a very, very blurry image in someone with a white jacket. Oron shows Flying Fist this image and asks her if this can be her brother, since the team knows, and we know, that her brother was a very powerful aeromancer, which was taken by Seraph. And she doesn't know. The photo is very, very blurry, but the wheels start spinning in her head. The last thing that happens in this scene is Seabreeze assume her normal human form, which is a teenage girl in a wheelchair, and come up to a cop and ask him to take her inside because she's a friend of Alex and was very worried and started crying and etc. And she gets inside and hugs Alex and crying and everything, and she's trying to show empathy in order to get more information from the parents, but alas, the support or comfort role was a miss, and so she didn't get any information, but it was a lovely scene. So this is it for this scene. We jump to next morning, Saturday. The Flying Fist, her real name is Tom. She gets up in the morning and have breakfast and talks with her father about her brother and asks him if he heard anything since Seraph took him. And it's a sore subject in the family. He's very sad about it, and he hasn't heard anything. But they did receive a letter from Seraph of some sort of formal, how do you call it, standard boilerplate letter, which says thank you for your cooperation, it's very important. We are sure Arel is going to be a valuable asset to the organization. So the team now is sure that the asset the Cap was talking about is in fact Arel, although they don't know what's the connection between Seraph and destroying Alex's house. We know, as the GM and as the listeners, that Seraph sent Typhoon to basically infiltrate and spy on Rave's criminal organization, and now he's working as an enforcer for Rave's faction. And then, I like to do this. If you want to hear why, go and watch Adam Kobel's Vlogmas video about movies. He explains why he uses the out of scene which are out of the character's perception, scenes that are just for the audience. So, for example, we see in a movie or even in a book or in a comics, for this matter, that the protagonist do something, and then the camera, we have a fade and we see the villains in another place talking about something. So the protagonist doesn't know anything about it, but we, the audience, do. So I like to do this from time to time, not a lot, but when it's dramatically appropriate, and this time it was very dramatically appropriate. I described how we have the last panel on the page, Tom crying, hugging her father, and then we are going to the last page of the issue, and we see panels of Rave and Typhoon meeting in a warehouse, and Typhoon removing his helmet, and we see it's Arel, Tom's brother, Flying Fist's brother. So this was a reveal for the audience and for the players. The character doesn't know this, but the players do, and it's basically a payoff for their intuition, basically. If they haven't thought about it during the session, I don't think I would have done this reveal, since it wouldn't have the same impact. But since they came up with the idea on their own, yes, I knew it was the brother, but they took the hints I gave and actually put it together. I feel like this scene was a kind of payoff. Okay, let's move on to what we are going to do next. I want to crank the heat up on this campaign. What more action? We have had 10 sessions so far, and only the first two was actual action scenes. There was the radio tower, the radio station, a hostage situation. The team fought against a villain/hero type of deal, Power Star. We talked about him. And since then, it was mainly investigation, a lot of investigation. At this point, it's more a noir novel than an actual superhero book. Now, it's not that superhero books doesn't have their place for investigation. It's that we don't have enough action in the campaign so far, so I want more. But it's really hard for me to just throw in villains for the heck of it. I need actual reasons for the villains to be in the city. So I thought about it this week, and I have 2 ideas for how to introduce villains that will just attack the city. No schemes, no machination, just violence for an end. It's not senseless violence. Senseless violence is reserved for monsters, basically. If you participate violence for the sake of violence, you are a monster. You're not a villain. Villain has motives, has something that drives him for his actions. So the first thing, and this is going to be introduced at the earliest opportunity in the next session, or the one after or the one after that, is a villain, an enemy, which is an adult, 10 years older than the team, and basically 10 years ago, after the War of Might was over, he was discovered as a wonder, as having superpowers, and he was taken by the military to be trained and look after, and now he is back, and he is mad about the people that did this to him. He will attack the city in order to draw out the officer that took him for his family. I like this idea, not only because it has actual rationalization, but because it touches on both the backstory of Oron as a teenager that was actually taken from his family himself, and he's being raised by the military right now, and for Flying Fist, as we discussed, since it's a very touchy subject with a brother. So it's not only an opportunity to have a fight scene, but it's an opportunity for more character drama, and I like it a lot. And the other thing I thought about doing is having some sort of terrorist group with the goal of releasing prisoners from the Boar. The Boar, if you will remember, is a prison facility surrounding the Fissure, which is a kind of interdimensional gate or breach or hole in reality that was the thing that initiated the revelation about wonders 10 years ago. And to protect the world from the fissure, a government, international organization constructed this prison around it where they house the most dangerous and out of control powers. Wonders. So basically, if you are a wonder and you do something illegal and you are deemed dangerous enough, you are put in this facility not only to separate you from the rest of society, but also to make you fight the horrors that escape the fissure. So this terrorist group, are going to make the argument that this is a severely inhumane thing to do to prisoners. It's basically a forced labor camp where the labor is life or death situation on a daily basis. Maybe not on a daily basis. Maybe things escape the fissure on a monthly basis. I don't know, but it's a very dangerous thing to do. So this group is going to attack the city in order to make the world government, or maybe just the local governments. Basically, the whole radius surrounding the border is an international demilitarized zone, which is outside the sovereignty of the state of Israel. But since Israel actually has the forces nearest to the border, they are the first responders. So at the beginning, at least, before this situation will escalate further, Israel is going to be the one to enforce whatever will happen. So the group will attack the city, people will be hurt, police will be involved, maybe the military will be involved. It will eventually, the whole idea behind the campaign is a villain. We will not talk about this right now, maybe in the next episode. A villain that is trying to cause chaos in the city to draw attention away from the war. And during the campaign, we are going to have a series of escalating incidents until eventually Seraph will be forced to intervene in the city. And the team is going to be stuck smack in the middle of it. That's the general idea. So far we had the inciting incident, which was how the team came together. The government trying to abduct famous wonders. There was a battle in the city. This was three weeks ago, game time. Then we had the radio station battle. That was a week ago. And now we have this attack on Alex's house. So far, allegedly, a series of disconnected events. We need a lot more of them. We need the following game week to be a lot fuller with dangerous battles and stuff like that. So it's a bit of a shorter episode, but in the next session, what is going to do? We are on Saturday. I'm going to ask the players if there are anything they want to do on Saturday. It's going to be their thing, since Saturday in Israel is the day of rest, Sunday is work day. And Tom was speaking with your father. Maybe other characters want to do more personal stuff. We'll see. Next day, Sunday, what we have is Ron meeting the military investigator. We talked about it in the last episode. I want to start rolling this storyline. The team as a whole hears about the string of robberies from their friend in school. This is conducted by the video kids, again, from the last episode. And after both of these things will happen, we have the attack on the city by the first villain, the villain with that was taken and raised by the military. That will happen first chance we get on Sunday. And hopefully we'll start the battle in the next session, but maybe it will follow over to the session after that. So that's the show for now. Next time we will catch up on what happened and try to polish a bit more these very dangerous factions that are going to attack the city. As usual, if you have any suggestions, ideas, or comments, please send them to me. You can catch me on Twitter at Isel. You can, of course, comment on the episode in dwarfcast.net website. You can join the On the Shoulders of Dwarfs Facebook group and talk with us there. We have very nice people there. And beside that, you can check my work on games at the Vano Games to a Mage page on Facebook. This has been Forging Ahead, episode 4. Thank you for listening. If you are watching live, you will now be able to watch me play Subnautica. But for those that are listening to the audio version, goodbye for this week.